So if you have a chair, place it at the front of your mat so you can place your hands on the seat. And we're going to start standing today. Whenever you're ready, find a pretty stable way to stand and just kind of begin seaweeding your body around a little so that you can kind of start to feel what's going on in your body, start to feel like, what are my joints doing? Are things achy, or do they feel pretty good? Do they feel like moving around is going to be enjoyable today, or am I feeling a little creaky? So you might rotate your wrists and your ankles and bend your knees and your hips and your neck, maybe move around a little. So it might look a little weird and funny, but that's okay. Feel free to make it as weird and funny as you like. And as you're trying out whatever movements you're trying out, take a few really deep breaths. And take your time coming back to center. From here, roll your shoulders back. Kind of move your neck around a little and see if you can stand up pretty tall with a secure base. So wherever you'd like your feet. And then interlace your hands and press them down and away. And as you do, allow your back to round. You can drop your chin to your chest and come into a standing cat pose, Marjarasana. And while you're here, you might move around a little, maybe checking out what's going on in your back, what's going on in your neck. And then when you're ready, lift your arms, sweep them up, around and back, and come into a standing cow pose, Vitalasana. So a little bit of a back bend. You might tip your chin up. And again, you might move around a little, just seeing how does that feel. And then move between this standing cat and cow at your own pace, using it in whatever way feels good, feels useful. Might be like a morning stretch, and you might move really slowly, or you might move more quickly. Awesome. When you're ready, you can come back to center, find mountain pose, and just notice how you're feeling. So notice how any of that stretching, moving around landed. And as usual today, I'm going to offer a whole bunch of things, and you could think of it as kind of a buffet. You can take what you like, skip things that don't work for you, and adapt anything in any way you like. So if you have a wall, back up against the wall so that you can place your shoulder blades at the wall. And if you don't have a wall, that's totally fine. You can do this in space. The wall is going to give you extra feedback if you have it. Wherever you are, lift your left arm up to the degree that it wants to go up. So keeping your elbow fairly straight and lifting so that you are moving from your shoulder. And maybe you notice your shoulder blade moving if you're leaning against the wall. And then switch arms. So lower your left arm, lift your right arm. And notice the extent. So like maybe your arm comes all the way up and you can tap the the wall, but that is not the goal. So maybe your arm stops here. The goal is to see, where does my arm stop? And then try it again a couple of times, just moving and feeling what's going on. And you might feel your shoulder blades moving quite a bit. As we lift our arms up, they're going to do that. And after you've done that a few times individually with your arms, see what it's like to lift both of your arms. Notice how high they'd like to go. Is it different when you lift both arms than when you lift one? And try that a couple of times. Then you can lower your arms. And if you are resting against a wall, as long as the floor is not slippery, as long as you're not going to slip, step your feet out a bit and rest your sacrum at the wall. And once you have yourself set up, really ground through your heels and lift your toes and the rest of your feet, and then drop them down. Try that a few times. And if you don't have a wall, you could do this without a wall, but maybe place your hand somewhere, because that's going to require a lot of balance. And if you have a wall, you might notice that it's work for all these muscles here in front of your shins. So as you're trying this, see if you can move pretty slowly and just really feel, what does it feel like as those muscles work? And also notice how far up do your feet want to come? So that gives you a little sense of how much dorsiflexion you have in your ankles, just naturally. And you might try one foot and then the other. And after you've done that a few times, you can step away from the wall, maybe come back to your mat if you've left your mat. And we're going to try a few shoulder cars, controlled articular rotations. So you can start with your right arm, and I'm going to turn so you can see really what I'm doing with my arm. But begin with your arm down so that your palm is facing towards your body. And then lift your arm up in front of you till it gets to a point where it stops. And so your thumb is going to be facing up. At this point, internally rotate your shoulder and begin rolling your shoulder back. So you're drawing this big circle with your arm. And when you get to the bottom, your palm will probably be facing out and your thumb will be facing back. And then reverse, bring it back. And then you're going to have to unwind your arm as you lift it up and around. I'm going to kneel down so you can really see what I'm doing. Try that a few times. So your palm is facing in, you come up and you get to a point where your arm stops, and then you have to internally rotate from the shoulder and draw this circle. And by the time you get down, your arm is going to be internally rotated, and then you reverse. So try it a few times before then switching sides. Whenever you're ready, you can switch sides. And as you're moving like this, really check in and notice what your shoulders feel like. So how much movement is there? Is there any clicking and popping? And just really take notice of your natural movement here. So as you move you know, my arms, you can see, come very close to each other here, and then they get further away as I'm spinning backwards. So maybe it's the same for you, maybe it looks different, but we're all built differently. Maybe do that once or twice more. Before then, kind of shaking things out a little. You can seaweed around a little, you can just kind of get loose. When you're ready, bring your palms together in front of you. And then roll your fingers towards you and notice, can you keep your palms together? So they might open up. You don't have to force anything. They might stay together, and then roll them away from, and notice like moving back and forth. This gives you an idea of how much extension you have in your wrists. How does that feel for you? And then next time you're rolling your hands away from you, continue rolling them, but bring the backs of your hands together. So you're doing this kind of rolling movement with your wrists. Yeah. You're just kind of warming your wrists up. And then if you feel like trying to reverse it, you can go ahead and do that. Awesome. And then you can shake out your wrists. And as you're ready, come to not exactly the front of your mat, but close to maybe about halfway to the front of your mat. And make sure you have either a chair or an imaginary chair here. So we're gonna kind of highlight upward and downward facing dog pose today. And I did send out an image of them, but typically when we think of upward facing dog and downward facing dog, there's a lot of weight bearing in the wrists and shoulders. I'm going to offer a couple of different ways to do it before we opt for maybe doing it the other way, maybe not. So upward facing dog, standing up, bring yourself into mountain pose and begin to feel as stable as you can. So ground through your feet. Think about grounding down through the big toe mounds, pinky toe mounds, and your heels. And you might lift all your toes and notice that that kind of does that naturally for you, and then spread your toes and drop them down, but keep that engagement in your feet. And then you might consider, what would it feel like if your feet won't move, but you kind of think about like, what if I were turning the fronts of my feet outward a little, but don't actually do that, but bring that kind of engagement so your feet are sticking to your mat, you have weight in them, but that might engage your calves and the muscles in the fronts of your shins. It might engage your quads a little. And then think about lifting up. So keeping that engagement, all of that kind of turning those muscles on, lifting up tall, roll your shoulders back, and keep your chest kind of puffed out a little, and then ground your hands into your thighs. Really roll your shoulders back, really puff your chest out, maybe tip your chin up, and keeping all of this engagement in your body. This is another version of upward dog. So as you're in this posture, maybe notice that a lot of tension kind of naturally will happen. you can release that. And just notice, like, did that feel okay? Did it cause any kind of clenching anywhere? Your whole body is really engaged. And if you tend to feel it in your low back, one thing you can do is really engage through your lower abs, and that will tend to kind of take a little bit of that tension out of your low back. So maybe try that one more time. Really engage through your lower body, through your feet, lifting up, pressing your hands into your thighs, puffing up your chest, rolling your shoulders back, maybe lifting your chin, and breathing. And then release. So that is one version of upward dog. Now let's see about a version of downward dog where we're not bearing weight on our hands. So downward dog is essentially a big hinge at your hips, and you're extending through your arms, through your shoulders, through your legs. And usually our hands and feet are on the ground. What would happen if we brought our hands in front of us and placed them on either a chair or a piece of furniture or at a wall? So place your hands on some sort of surface and then walk your feet back to the extent that that works for you. And notice, does straightening your arms out, pressing through your hands, straightening through your legs work? Do you still have that sense of, I think we've done downward dog in the past, do you have that kind of sense of creating some length in your body, really pressing and extending through your limbs? And can you take a few deep breaths in this version of downward dog? Just really noticing how it feels for you to be pretty upright in this posture. And then walk your feet back in. Come back up. Maybe transition into upward dog, pressing your palms into your thighs, finding all that engagement, possibly lifting your chin. And so in upward dog, this is said to be a posture that kind of embodies that potential, that kind of raw energy of a wild dog. So maybe tap into some of that energy. And then try transitioning into your downward dog from here. So coming upright, bringing your hands down, walking your feet out to the extent that you can find a comfortable position, finding extension through your legs, through your arms. And downward dog is said to embody that harnessed potential, that harnessed energy of a dog, which can be calm and loyal, can be very, very wonderful, and the kind of energy that we all have that we can direct towards something intentionally from a calm place. As you're ready, you can walk your feet forward and come out of your downward dog. Maybe pause in mountain pose. And from here, we're going to do kind of a little sun salutation. including that upward and downward dog. So as you're ready, begin in mountain. Sweep your arms up, reach up, Urdhva Hastasana. Stretch up and root down. And when you're ready, fold forward into a forward fold. And that can be a full forward fold or half, depending on how your back is feeling today. If you're not already in a half forward fold, lift yourself halfway up. You've got a flat back. You're grounding through your feet. And then place your hands on your chair. Walk your feet back into your downward dog. And when you're ready, we're going to transition into a plank posture, or you could stay in downward dog. But if you'd like to come into a plank posture, you will bring your hips forward, bringing some weight into your hands, as much or as little as you like. And right here might be a nice time to notice if you are coming forward into your plank, how does that work for your wrists? Many people have a lot of trouble with weight bearing in the wrists, or even flexion in the wrist, extension in the wrists, and that's fine. It could be something that you back off from. As you're ready, you can send your hips back, walk your feet forward a little, come up into your upward dog, pressing your hands into your thighs, finding whatever back bend is there for you, really engaging through your lower body, through your glutes. Feeling that upward energy. And then coming back into your down dog. So bringing your hands back down, walking your feet out. Maybe feeling a bit more of a calming energy here, or whatever is there for you. It might not be the same for you as for me. When you're ready, transitioning into your half forward fold. So bringing yourself into this halfway folded position. And then a full forward fold if that works for you. And as you're ready, sweeping yourself up. If you want to keep a flat back, that's great. If you want to roll up, that's great too. But when you get to the top, lifting your arms, sweeping them up, reaching up, press your palms together and bring them down. And as always, if when we're lifting ourselves up from a bent over position with our head below our heart, if that makes you feel dizzy, squeezing your hands together can be a great option. But pause in mountain and see how that sun salutation went for you. And we're going to try that one more time before then having the option of coming down to the floor and trying these things out and maybe warming up our wrists a little more beforehand. But release your hands when you're ready. Sweep your arms up. Reach up, Urdhva Hastasana. Fold forward, Uttanasana. Option to take a half forward fold, Ardha Uttanasana, with a flat back. When you're ready, plant your hands. And if you need to walk your feet back to come into a downward dog, so your hands will be at your chair or the wall or wherever you have been opting to place them, and come into your downward dog. Option to come into plank by shifting your body forward, maybe bringing some weight to your arms. And when you're ready, come into your upward dog. So for me, I need to step my feet forward a little, lift myself up, really open through my chest, grounding my hands on my thighs, really engaging through your feet, all the way up through your legs, through your glutes, your core, puffing your chest up, finding that energy. And then back to downward dog. Option to come into a half forward fold with a flat back. And then take your time transitioning into a full forward fold if that works for you. And then take your time coming all the way up. Maybe lifting your arms into Urdhva Hastasana, and then pressing your palms together and bringing them down. Pause in mountain pose. Notice how you're feeling.